Imagine a mystical world full of magic where humans no longer exist, where animals are free to roam the sky, the sea, the land. A mystical world full of various perils, dangers, but also filled with beautiful things, landscapes, and the greatest of them all, the great tree of Gahul, located in an island in the middle of the Sea of Hulimir. This is Guardians of Gahul. Now our story basically takes place in southern kingdoms, starting with the forest kingdom of Taito. And it focuses on 5 owls, known as the band. Now the first member of the band, and basically the leader of it, although he's never recognized, he doesn't like to be recognized as the leader, is Soren, who is a brave owl, a kind owl, and a pure owl in all senses. He always likes to think diplomatically. He always asks the band of something that has to be taken care of, whether it be a great decision or a small decision. Now the next one is a pretty peculiar owl. He's an elf owl. She's small. She might not be as great flyer as them all, but she's really smart. She can memorize entire star constellations and fly blindly through storm and any type of weather, whether it be ice, say tornadoes. She can handle anything. Her name's Gylfi, and she's Soren's best friend from the start. The next owl is Digger. Yeah, he might look like a dumb here, but trust me, in the books, he's no fool. He's seen some really, really deep stuff. Like seeing his own family members die because of some bad owls of Saint Aegis. And what is Saint Aegis? You'll learn soon. Now the next owl is basically an orphan. He's always been an orphan. And in the movie he's seen more with Digger. But he's always been alone in the books. His name is Twilight. He's a poet, he's a singer, you name it, he can be everything. He's a fierce fighter and can make owls go eep, which is basically they go down to the ground in seconds with his songs. And the next owl would be Eglantine. She's basically sort of part of the band, more part of the Chaws, but she's a really important member of the story. She's Soren's sister. She's one of the greatest barn owls the great tree of Gahul has seen, and she's a really important part. She plays a really important part in one of the books, The Shattering. We also got some other owls in which the books focus. Her name is Otulisa. She's really smart, sometimes smarter than she has to, and it annoys everyone. But her mind is really, really great. Also, we have the Master, the one that teaches Soren everything he needs to know about combat, about flying through weather, through storms, through tornadoes, through hurricanes. His name is Esor, and he's got some things under his sleeve. He has some really interesting past. Now, we've seen the good side of the story. Let's go to the bad side. His name is Claude. He's a bad egg. He's the black sheep of the family. He's Soren's brother, and to no bomber, he basically kicked Soren out of the nest when he was small, so he could get kidnapped or, in his thoughts, killed. He's also a fierce fighter with no remorse whatsoever because he killed his parents. We also have his mate, which is a really, really bad owl. Her name is Nira. She's basically somewhat smart. She's really fierce. She doesn't doubt when she has to take a decision. She would kill any owl for her mate. But sometimes that fierceness can deceive her. So let's start with the first book, The Capture. Now, The Capture basically is the story of Soren being kidnapped and being given to St. Agnes, which is basically a place where they nurture some owls and train them so they can have power over all owl kingdoms. Later we'll get to know that they'd be captured by another society called Pure Ones. Now in this book, basically you get to see how Soren has to struggle within this sort of concentration camp, like in the Second World War. It's basically a place where they train owls, and they also get rid of their wings, of their feathers, so they can't fly. And the process of this is really, really creepy. Some bats go and suck the blood from their feathers, and also some other pretty bad stuff, like for example, egg eating. Yes, egg eating. Now the second book, The Journey. The Journey is basically Soren and Gylfi escaping from St. Agis, and they're followed by Twilight and Digger. This leads them through all the southern kingdoms. They fly east, south, north. They even get lost, and they get in this weird sort of woods where they have this sort of timeout. They're just staring and they're just relaxing and all, until one other character, Miss P, a really good snake, tells them to mock it off, to just go up. They can't live like that. They're not slackers. They're not like that. What would their parents think of them? So then they embark and they arrive to the Great Tree of Kahul, where they train. The rescue. The rescue basically takes place sometime after Soren and the band had trained. Soren hadn't seen his family, neither his sister, his parents, no one. But his teacher Esselbrib has been missing. So he and the band decide to go out and search for him. They find not only Esselbrib, but also his sister. And they're both in this weird sort of magnetic field with some flecks that are basically making them nuts, with her sister covered in blood and just saying that the title are the purest of them all, that they should rule over them. This leads to Soren and the band basically confronting the Pure Ones and their leader, the evil one called as Metalbeak. And who might Metalbeak be? None other than the bad and evil brother of Soren, Claude, who's basically wearing a mask because of some bad wound he's gotten from all the battles he's gone into, along with Nira and the other Pure Ones. After some more training within the Great Tree, the band gets confronted again by the Pure Ones, this time by a bigger army, so they have to be kept in the Great Kahul Tree. They have to stand in there, and they keep being sighted by these Pure Ones months and months and months, until they can sort out a plan that can get them free, because there was a spy below their beaks. That's right, someone betrayed the Great Tree, and none other than the greatest, the most oldest rib of them all. No, not Esselrib, someone else. and it causes the death of another rib. The Shattering. The Shattering is a book based in the point of view of Eglantine. After the Battle of the Siege, some of the Pure Ones decided to stay in the Great Tree and leave behind their black past. Did they? One owl named Ginger decides to live with Eglantine and her roommate, or nestmate, however you want to call it. So basically Ginger tries to get in the mind of Eglantine. Why? Because Nira needs someone to brood her egg, to brood hers and Claude's egg, which will be hatching in an eclipse, just like she did, so the egg can get immeasurable power, whether for good or for bad. But thanks to Eglantine and her great friend, the egg gets destroyed. The Burning. The Burning is the final stand for Claude. It's the decisive battle, in which Soren and the band had to train in the northern kingdoms, where storms and ice just gets thrown into them. But at last, they get help from an old friend of Fly's to kill. Essorib, as you may call it. They get trained in the old arts of fire and ice. Fire branches that can be burned forever, and ice shards that never melt, so thick, so powerful that they can shred into anything, even stone. Soren and the band, along with other Hoole guardians, fly through St. Agnes, where they learn that the Pure Ones had gained control of St. Agnes. They fly there and they fight fiercely with fire and ice. Last, when Soren is presented with an opportunity to kill his brother, he doesn't. But Twilight goes in and gets the decisive strike, killing Claude as Nira flies off. And it was all joy. The Pure Ones have been defeated at St. Agnes and peace had returned. Is it? Because from the depths of a place desolated, with no life, basically a desert, named Beyond, an egg was hatching during an eclipse night. His name would be Nyrok, son of Nira and Claude. Nyrok would be trained like his father. He would be trained by the Pure Ones, taught by his mother that the evil guardians of Hoole were the ones that defeated his father, and that they killed him at cold blood, that Soren had given the decisive strike, that he just killed him and murdered every single owl around, with only Nira escaping. And so, rituals were made for young Nyrok, so that he could rise like the Pure One's leader. Like the Pure One's leader. Like once his father was. The Hatchling. The Hatchling is basically the story of Nyrok, how he has to deal with the pressure of being this great leader of the Pure Ones. But one day, when he was having a ritual called Tupsi, in which his father's bones were fired up by a blacksmith, he saw something within the fire. In those bones, he saw the truth. He saw the truth, and as fast as he saw it, he flew out of the Beyond to search for the truth, along with his best friend. A best friend that Nira would kill at cold blood, with no mercy. Nyrok escaping and basically becoming the outcast. Now, the outcast is the story of Nyrok trying to know what's happening in the world. What did his mother lie to him? What is lies? What is truth? How can he know if the guardians weren't the bad guys? So he flies through the southern kingdoms. He helps some small owls. He even saves an egg from being smashed into the ground. He then goes to the beyond. In the beyond, he gets to know some wolves. Some wolves that basically teach him how the Emperor of Hoole was guarded until a fateful day that someone might recover. A great owl destined to be the king of the great tree of Gahul. And this owl would be none other than him, with a new name, a new identity, Corin. Now the next 3 books are called The Legends. Basically, these are prequels, set thousands of years before the events of the capture, the first color, the coming of Hoole, and to be a king. These 3 books tell the story of King Hoole, how he got the Emperor of Hoole, how he got trained by the Northern Owls, and how he became king of the great tree of Gahul. After reading the 3 great legends, and with Eskelrip's inevitable death, Corin decides that the Ember should stay in the great tree. The great tree suffers some interesting changes. Its leaves become golden. The owls that inhabit the great tree no longer have to sleep during the day. But it comes with a price. The owls become possessed by the ember. They worship it, like if it's some sort of god. Glux is their god. But within the golden tree, its god becomes the ember. And while young King Corin is out in the northern kingdoms, searching for clues about how the ember works and what it should be done about it, she gets to notice something bad is happening in the great tree. He comes back and restores order. The Rebirth Myth. After getting some knowledge from an old friend in the Palace of Mists, which is basically a castle that the others inhabited, the Owls of Gahul decide that they should go on, that they should try to discover this new kingdom, the Middle Kingdom, as it's called, where the night becomes day, the day becomes night, and things are really different. There, they meet blue owls. Owls whose feathers have grown long and moistured, but they can't fly. And followed by evil Nira and the pure ones once again, they must find a way to stop them from reaching the Middle Kingdom, while one of Soren's chicks get helped by a mysterious blue owl, one that has escaped the Middle Kingdom. Exile. Having returned from the Middle Kingdom, young King Corin, Soren, and the rest of the band decide to take the Striga, the blue owl who helped Bel, back to the great tree of Gahul, where things start changing. Corin gets possessed by this Striga. How, you may ask? One of the greatest celebrations of the great Gahul tree gets cancelled, because Striga thinks that it's a vain thing, that they shouldn't be having all these vain things, like for example books that are of no use, joke books, some of the legends that don't need to be there. as he thinks. And as Otto, Lisa and the band discover, young King Corin's mind has been corrupted by Striga. Striga is making him get some information about the Ember of Hoole, which still resides within the tree. And also, some books are missing. The War of the Ember. The War of the Ember is the final book in the Gardens of Ga'Hoole. It's the final confrontation between Nira and Corin. It's the final battle, the one war that will end the conflict between the Pure Ones and all the Owl Kingdoms. But not only the Owl Kingdoms. This war involves all the good creatures of the South and Northern Kingdoms. Wolves, bears, puffins, crows, snakes, you name it. They're part of the Great War of the Ember. They search not only to fight for the Ember, they fight for freedom. They fight for the fate of all the Owl Kingdoms. As Nira and the Striga have joined forces to get an evil power from the past. So, what are my thoughts on the books? They're great books. They're basically this sort of mixture between good scenes and bad scenes. The books are really involving. I really felt like I was part of the world. With every single book I read, I got more interested into the lore, the story of everything. How did Ezilri become a Rib? Where did he come from? How did Claude got the mask? How did Corin rise from being an outcast, from being basically a bad owl marked by his parents, to become the great king of the Ga'Hoole tree? How Soren became king? How they discovered that there was another kingdom? How they used the other's technology on their favor? These books are all really great. I really recommend them. Not just because I'm a fan of them, but also because it has some really great stories. Except for maybe one book that I might say the plot wasn't really the greatest one of them all. That book is The Shattering. The Shattering's plot is just vague. It's just... I really didn't feel like it had to be a book, a complete book. It could have been just 2 or 3 chapters in another book. Because basically the story is Nira that needs someone to brood her egg. That one owl being Eglantine for some reason, she hypnotizes her for some reason, and at the end it backfires at her. Why? Because Eglantine basically smashes the egg. It lets it drop from a high point so that the egg never ever hatches. That's the only book that I'm like, it wasn't that interested. It didn't need to be a book. It didn't need to be a complete book. But you know what? It's an interesting story. From beginning to end, from book 1 to book 15. I haven't read the companion books, but I hope they're as good as the main books are. There's also another thing that I would recommend you to see, and it's the movie. The movie is called Legend of the Guardians, The Owls of Ga'Hoole. It's a really long title they got. It's one of the problems the movie had. Also, it's PG, where the books aren't PG. The books are more like in some scenes they're rated R, but it's a great movie. It's a really good movie. Kids will enjoy it too. It has some fun stuff. Some of the characters aren't like the ones you see in the books, but it makes a good mix between stories of the book and their own thoughts. So ladies and gentlemen, I've been Real2911. Thanks for watching this video. Leave a like, leave a comment if you want me to do more reviews of books, of movies. You can suggest a movie to me. I may or may not have seen it, and I will make a review. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you can get more content like this. I usually do gameplays I do some rants, I do some discussions, but yeah, this would be all from me. Thanks for watching. Godspeed.